Welcome, everyone. I am so incredibly glad to have you all here. And to our new clinical staff, welcome to the team. You're stepping onto the front lines of what's probably the most challenging, yet absolutely the most rewarding clinical work you'll ever do. Consider this explainer your vital orientation. It's essentially a masterclass in treating our toughest demographic, chemically dependent criminal offenders. Today, we're going to break down the exact tactical toolkit you need to guide these individuals toward lasting recovery. So let's start with the big question, right? The hook for everything we do here. Why do traditional addiction treatments consistently fail our criminal offender populations? Well, think about it. Traditional models usually assume that once a patient is detoxed, they can just jump right into treatment and, pick up where they left off in life. But for the criminal justice population, that foundation, it's usually completely missing. Our patients often lack the functional life skills, the social networks, and the emotional regulation that those traditional models just assume they already have. A simple detox and done approach? No way. That just sets them up for a revolving door of relapse and reoffense. We literally have to build those missing life skills from the absolute ground up. Okay, let's dive into our syllabus for today. We'll be covering the developmental recovery model, mapping out tasks and stuck points, identifying relapse warning signs, and looking at workbook skill-building exercises. Then we'll wrap up with rewiring through brain neurofeedback and the absolutely crucial roles of compassion and family support. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the developmental recovery model. Now, I want to be crystal clear. This model isn't just some abstract clinical theory. It's the daily lens through which we view every single patient interaction. The developmental model of recovery, or DMR, treats recovery not as a one-and-done event, but as an ongoing, multi-stage process over time. It's all about chronologically acquiring new skills. And here's the kicker. If a patient doesn't develop specific coping skills at each stage, relapse isn't just a possibility, it is inevitable. We know our patients want immediate payoffs, right? But recovery just doesn't work that way. It's our job to patiently guide them through these stages, realizing that learning to live without substances requires building an entirely new set of behavioral tools. Moving right along to Section 2, mapping tasks and stuck points. So, to actually build this into our treatment plans, we have to map out exactly what we expect from our clients. Every single stage of recovery requires highly concrete developmental tasks and specific coping strategies. Let's look at the abstinence stage. The core task here is literally separating from people, places, and things that trigger use to stop those self-defeating behaviors. Then, as they move into the repair stage, they're often going to struggle with catastrophic thinking. Here, their strategy has to shift toward using cognitive therapy and self-care to overcome that heavy negative self-labeling. And finally, in the growth stage, the goal is developing a balanced, healthy lifestyle by engaging in mutual help and finding alternative activities. As counselors, you have to know exactly which stage your patient is in. Why? So you can demand the right coping strategy at exactly the right time. Now, inevitably, as they work through these stages, they're going to hit a wall. We call this a stuck point. It's a critical moment, a real crossroads. When a patient hits a stuck point, they face a stark choice. They either actively use one of the relapse prevention skills we've taught them to solve the problem, or they lapse back into their most familiar coping mechanism, denial. And if they choose denial, stress just begins to build and compound beneath the surface, day after day, until a relapse occurs. Without our direct intervention at these exact moments, they're going to fail. Because of that, I want you all to memorize this specific counselor script. This is exactly how you should guide a client through a stuck point, whether in your next role play or a live session. Notice how direct it is. You say, I see you're using denial right now instead of facing the problem. Let's look at the stress building up. What specific relapse prevention skill can we use to interrupt this before it worsens? Do you see what we did there? You call out the denial and then immediately pivot to the solution. You're demanding accountability, for sure, but you're also empowering them by reminding them that they already hold the tools to fix it. That brings us to Section 3, identifying relapse warning signs. Listen, we have to train ourselves and our patients to spot the invisible signs of relapse long before a substance is ever picked up. Relapse is gradual, folks. It's not just some sudden event. Weeks before a physical lapse, you're going to see emotional relapse. The patient starts isolating, their self-care drops, their anxiety spikes. Then, days before, it shifts to mental relapse. That's when they start craving, romanticizing their past drug use, and secretly planning. Honestly, by the time they hit physical relapse, the actual day they use the substance, the battle's pretty much already been lost. Our job is to intervene early during those emotional or mental phases, that is absolutely when our chances of success are greatest.
All right, Section 4, Workbook Skill Building Exercises. So, you might be wondering, how do we actually catch those early warning signs? Well, we do it through the daily grind of our program. We use the TAP 19 manual, which was specifically designed for chemically dependent criminal offenders. It takes these lofty clinical concepts and turns them into daily habits. You need to instruct your patients to use these exact end-of-day reflection questions. Every single evening, they need to ask themselves, what high-risk situations did you have today? How did you handle them? Like, how did you think, feel, and act? What mandates and injunctions did you face? And crucially, they have to review this with a sponsor or a trusted sober friend. It literally forces them to analyze their behaviors and stops denial from taking root before it even starts.
A huge part of this workbook training is learning how to manage high-risk environments. First, we teach them to identify high-risk triggers ahead of time. But hey, we all know surprises happen, right? So step 2 is developing concrete exit strategies for those surprise encounters. Step 3, and I love this one, we literally have patients create physical flashcards with their personalized relapse prevention plans and carry them right in their pockets. If they walk into a room and a trigger is there, they don't have to overthink it. They just pull out the card and follow their own plan. And finally, step 4, we utilize the HALT method, checking if they are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, along with mindfulness for robust physical self-care.
Okay, let's look at Section 5, Rewiring Through Brain Neurofeedback.
Now, as much as all those behavioral tasks matter, we also have to address the physiological damage caused by long-term substance abuse. To put this into perspective, just think about our own campus here at the Meadows, Texas. It offers a wonderfully calm environment for deep healing. Why does that matter so much? Because a chaotic, addicted brain needs a calm, safe physical space to truly heal. Our patients have spent years living in constant states of fight or flight. To prepare them for the deep psychological work of recovery, we absolutely have to settle their nervous systems first. And that's exactly where our Brain Center comes in. We use neurofeedback and biofeedback, which are these amazing state-of-the-art technologies that help reprogram neural circuits. Long-term addiction totally disrupts brain function, driving up anxiety and stress. But by using this tech, we teach patients to consciously calm down and self-regulate their emotions. It's wild. It literally improves the brain's efficiency, speeds up the healing process, and gets them ready to tackle recovery far sooner than traditional talk therapy could on its own. Finally, Section 6, Compassion and Family Support. Let's bring this masterclass to its most deeply human element. All the cognitive tools in the world won't work if a patient just hates themselves the second they stumble. Our patients are incredibly quick to criticize themselves. When they have a setback, their default is the shame and guilt response. They feel like a failure, they isolate, they engage in harsh self-criticism, and ultimately it just fuels continued use. We have to actively teach the self-compassion response instead. We need them to understand that a slip isn't a moral failure, it's just a signal to adjust the plan. It requires honest accountability, sure, but also recognizing our common humanity, adjusting the plan, and getting right back to re-engaging with treatment. To help with that, here is your second critical script pulled straight from Smart Recovery Principles. The moment a client reports a slip, try responding like this. Notice your emotions right now without letting them define you. Many people in lasting recovery have experienced setbacks. How would you encourage a friend going through this? It's brilliant, really. You validate them, you normalize the setback, and then you totally flip their perspective. It instantly short-circuits that harsh self-criticism and replaces it with real self-kindness and mindfulness. But remember, we can't just send these patients back out into a vacuum. Addiction affects the whole family system. That's exactly why we have a 4-day family education program. We bring loved ones in to really educate them on addiction, trauma, and codependency. We practice healthy communication skills together, and most importantly, we establish firm, protective boundaries. By developing a comprehensive aftercare plan together, we ensure the patient steps out of our doors and into a truly sustainable support network. So, I'll leave you all with this final, provocative thought. You've got the framework now. You understand the stages, you know how to interrupt those stuck points, and you see the power of neurofeedback and compassion. So, how will you use these tools today to replace your patient's shame with actionable recovery skills? I challenge you to take everything from this explainer straight into your clinical sessions. Let's get to work and make a real difference out there.